Okay, no introduction, no beating around the bush. We have to talk about Pino's death. And this is one of those things where how I feel about it comes from two different perspectives. The thoughts I had when reading the raw scan spoilers, and the thoughts I had after reading the chapter in its entirety. Because if you had asked me how I felt after reading the former, I would have said that I'm 60-40 on the fence as to whether I believe she's dead. Because the thing for me is, if we had gotten Pino's death before we got the revelations about Ziggy, I would be here saying it's possible. But taking that new information into account, Ziggy killing Pino still felt somewhat scripted, as if despite being consumed by his darker half, this was still Ziggy seeing killing Pino as his last resort towards pushing Shiki to kill him. But Pino herself isn't actually dead, just contained in some kind of like gravity space or dimension or whatnot. Again, this is how I initially felt after reading the after reading the Scanlation spoilers. But after reading the chapter in its entirety, my thought process on that is a little fractured and scrambled. Because while I do still somewhat believe the end result was intentional on Ziggy's part, I am also kind of more on the side of believing Pino is dead. And the thing is though, based on the recorded conversation we see Hermit looking at between himself and Elsie, Ziggy had to have known how this would end after the fact of him committing the deed. Like he needed someone to kill him. Whether he killed her or not, it would inevitably all leads to the same conclusion, the same result. So the question I have is, if Pino is actually dead, then is this going to stick? Because I know that Mashima said that the series is going to take a tragic turn, and Pino's death is definitely in line with that. But if Mother's wish-making still holds true, even now, that loophole of resurrection still exists. And I'm not gonna lie, it would be thematically and narratively brilliant if Mashima killed her in order to bring her back by pretty much the end of the series as a human. Like that feels like where we firmly established what it is that Shiki is probably going to do with his wish. Like he's probably going to bring Pino back, but as a human. To me that feels like where this is going after reading the chapter itself. Of course, the bigger question to ask is where this will lead Shiki, because I think he definitely got plunged off the deep end after seeing what Ziggy did to Pino, and there is definitely reason to worry now about Satan Gravity consuming Shiki's very being and just who he is as a person. Like, this is pretty much everything that happened with Shiki in this chapter is pretty much everything that Zenolith had warned about in terms of the dangers of harnessing this power. So for me, it's a question of how far Mashima is going to take this aspect of the narrative now, because while I don't want to say that Shiki is going to become full-on evil, I also think this was Shiki's turning point, where now that he's killed Ziggy, now that it appears like he's given even more into the power, I think we are going to see a more ruthless and angry Shiki than we had before. And honestly, this is a point where I feel Mashima went full Star Wars with the series, because it's the Luke and Vader battle from Return of the Jedi all over again, only on a reversal, in the sense where Shiki actually fully gave in to his dark impulses, whereas Luke, he gave in to it for a time, but he learned to control them before even killing his father. And yeah, going back to that scene of Hermit looking at the recorded conversation with Ziggy and Elsie, Hermit says she more or less knows the identity of the enemy now, but in typical Mashima fashion, the man continues to keep leading us on, which, yeah, is definitely getting a little annoying. But someone brought it up in the comments section of where I read this chapter, which is that if a mother exists, isn't it plausible that there's possibly a father as well, and potentially the idea of this father being the one who is controlling Ziggy? Like, and it's honestly a very interesting idea and one I never thought about. But yeah, it could be this father who's controlling Ziggy. Now, as far as whether I believe it or not, it is an interesting idea. I just don't know how this would work, because as far as we know, we haven't gotten really all that much build up to the idea outside of Ziggy's turn, but if it does raise a bit of doubt on what'll happen when the crew collects all the relics, that'll help lead to Mother. That's the thing. Lead to Mother if that's still a thing that's in play. But it's like the only way I could see this working is if they tie the idea of this father to Planet Zero. Like I feel that's possibly where this is going, is like somehow the idea of this father is tied to Planet Zero in some way. And yeah, Elsie pretty much deactivates all the dragons, absolving herself of her being the villain that we're looking for. And I suppose you could say her true self finally reached the surface. So I think it's safe to say her character arc after Elsie's character arc after this chapter is pretty much over. Like unless she's gonna choose to willingly go with Shiki and see through to the end of this journey with him, there's not really all that much reason for her to continue on the path she's been on, and there's not much. Her whole story in her whole like saga with Lendard has reached its end in the story for the first time. I genuinely feel interested in where they're planning to take Justice as a character. Although depending on what the next heel turn is going to be, like just the fact that both Elsie's and James's character arcs are finished also makes me worried that Mashima is about to kill both of them. Like that's my biggest fear, more than anything, is that Elsie probably isn't much along for this world now, which would be kind of funny if Mashima killed her, considering in Fairy Tail he put her through so many life-threatening situations, but she always came out of it alive. So yeah, I would. It's one of those things where I would like James and Elsie to just have a happy ending, and for Elsie to maybe continue on, like, helping Shiki and whatnot, but if we are getting close to the reveal of who this enemy is, I don't know if it's in the cards for the two of them to survive. Of course, even more than that, though, with Hermit also so close to the truth, I'm wondering if she's gonna live much longer, because I doubt whoever this enemy is, they'd let her reveal their identity. But yeah, I don't know. Like this, there's a lot of questions I have about this. There's so much I love about this chapter, and still so many questions I have. Like the idea, I don't know. Like, what do you guys think? Like, is this idea of a father like possible? Because I'm still trying to work out the details myself in my head. But yeah, guys. That's pretty much all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe from my Twitter, Analyst Crunchyroll. Be sure to hit the notification bell, hit the subscribe button, and just share it around, guys. Dark Knight of Anime, signing off. Later, everyone.